So when he started climbing out of his crib, I started looking into floor beds. And that's kind of when my first introduction of Montessori began. And I just fell in love with the idea of him being able to do everything himself, putting himself to bed and putting things low in his room so that he can reach his books and he can put his clothes away. And through that, I just kind of grew this love for Montessori and started researching it and learning all about it. I just found a bed that I liked, and we were in a position where we couldn't afford it. So we just built it ourselves, and it went crazy. People were asking me if I could make it for them and stuff. And so it just kind of boomed and turned into this business.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Mom Does It All. If you're looking for encouragement, empowerment, and uplifting in motherhood and mompreneurship, this is a show for you. I'm your host, Marta Spurk, triplet mom, certified success coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. In this episode, I talk to DIYer, blogger, and entrepreneur Courtney Slight. She shares her journey into the Montessori lifestyle and how she turned it into a business. We also talk about social anxiety and the pressure social media has been putting on moms to live the perfect life. Such a great conversation. Let's get right to it. Have you entered our first giveaway yet? We'll be announcing the winner later this week. There's still time to participate and get an exclusive Mom Boss tea and coffee cup with a Mom Does It All logo. Sign up on the podcast account on Instagram, Mom Does It All Podcast. Hi, Courtney. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Yes, me too. So first off, we have to talk all things Montessori because I've never had anyone on talk about this. And I've known about this for so long because it's something that I was looking into even before having kids. And it just baffles me that sometimes I talk to moms and they're like, what is that? I feel like everyone knows what it is.
A lot of people don't realize what it is. And a lot of people are doing it and don't even realize that they're doing it. So, so Montessori is it's just a type of teaching and learning and playing that helps to kind of promote this sense of independence in kids. And it's the way that you teach them to do things or have them do them themselves and stuff that kind of just really shows them that they are able to do things themselves. And so, I really like it. I think it's great.
Awesome. Now tell us about your business and how you got into doing what you do in terms of Montessori and how helpful it is, why you're passionate about it, all the things.
Yeah. So I used to own a business where I sold children's furniture that was all Montessori based. So we sold house beds and little hammock chairs and teepees and just things that really helped promote independence and just all that fun stuff. And I'm just doing a blog where I show everyone how I incorporate that into our lives in the daily go about things. And so that's just, I like to share that with people.
So tell me how you got into looking into Montessori things and, wanting to do this as a business and for your family.
Yeah.
And tell me how you even started the business. I want to know from the beginning.
Okay. So, let's see. I didn't even know really what it was. I had heard about that, heard about it before. I had friends that went to a Montessori school, but other than that, I didn't really know what that meant. And then I had my son, and when he was 9 months old, he started climbing out of his crib and showing very independent, things throughout all of his behaviors. So when he started climbing out of his crib, I started looking into floor beds. And that's kind of when my first introduction of Montessori began. And I just fell in love with the idea of him being able to do everything himself, putting himself to bed and putting things low in his room so that he can reach his books and he can put his clothes away. And through that, I just kind of grew this love for Montessori and started researching it and learning all about it. So that kind of is where it started and where my love for Montessori began. And then we kind of developed our business around that. And through that, gained some more knowledge and started following a lot of other people who practice Montessori teaching and playing in their homes and stuff. And so, let's see, he's 3 now. And that was when he was 9 months. So it's been a little over 2 years that we've been pretty serious about it and trying to just really create this lifestyle in our home.
Yeah.
let's see, what else did you want me to say about that?
Well, what's interesting to me is that you started noticing these patterns or his behavior, and then you started looking into Montessori. And when did you start a business with that? Like how was that transition from I enjoy this and now I want to do, make the furniture and start helping other moms and parents?
Yeah. So really how that happened is I just found a bed that I liked, and we were in a position where we couldn't afford it. So we just built it ourselves, and it went crazy. People were asking me if I could make it for them and stuff. And so it just kind of boomed and turned into this business that we were able to use. And that actually paid for our adoption that we had this year. So,
that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's an interesting point, because even though it's a very cool concept, the things are kind of expensive, because it's all wooden, right? And it's very specific. And I've noticed that. Usually people buy used, like the learning tower and things or make their own if their husband's crafty enough.
Which is what we do, a lot of making our own. But honestly, it has kind of a more expensive market in some areas, but there's a lot of things that you can find for really inexpensive.
Okay.
I find things all the time at Target Dollar Spot. I find things all the time at thrift stores that, it doesn't even have to be a specific Montessori toy, but you can turn it into a Montessori toy in a lot of circumstances. So there are ways around all the higher expenses, but a lot of things are handmade, and I like to support that community anyway. So those kind of things can be on the higher end, but there's ways around that as well.
Nice. And is this something that you share too, on your blog, different ways of incorporating Montessori?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do a lot of DIYs because that's basically how we've developed our entire Montessori collection is DIYs, doing it ourselves, and then Target Dollar Spot and Dollar Store trips.
Because sometimes I feel at least for me, I don't know other people, it seems like it's an interesting concept, but it's kind of hard to incorporate it. And that's something that I did want to mention because, like I said, I looked into this even before I had kids and I wanted to implement it. But then I had triplets and it became a little bit hard.
It's overwhelming.
Yes, to do the floor bed and to just, try to do certain things. I was just I want to survive and make it the simplest for me, even though I want them to be independent, which I feel in a way, I have incorporated certain things because I have to make sure that they are eating by themselves, that they're eating, even the baby-led weaning or whatever. I had to kind of incorporate these things for my sanity and survival, and because I can't tend to 3 kids at the same time, essentially. So it's interesting for me to learn from somebody that has been educated into this and worked with this even. The different things that you can do that are accessible, that are not so complicated. So I would love for you to give some tips, if moms are wanting to incorporate that into parenting and they just feel overwhelmed maybe, or they don't know where to start.
Yeah. Okay. So, start small. Like I said, Target Dollar Spot, they have the funnest things. Lots of them are wood puzzles and little felt books and stuff. All of that can be considered Montessori because it's stuff that the kids can do by themselves. Also, if you just have little bowls around your house and you want to teach your kids how to sort colors or how to sort letters or how to sort different objects like feathers and paper clips and things. You don't need the fancy stuff. You can do Montessori with the very bare bones. But if you like the stylistic vibe of it, which I do, you can work up to that. But like I said, thrift stores have the coolest things that you can turn into Montessori things. And you can always check on my blog and other blogs to get some ideas of how you can incorporate different items into Montessori. So let's see. How I would probably tell a mom who wanted to get into it but was maybe overwhelmed would just be start with 1 or 2 things. You don't have to have a whole Montessori station set up. So focus on things that your child is into and kind of go from there. If they're really into sensory play, try to get like a little sensory table set up for them. If you know they're really into sorting, like my little guy will always pick out his red cars and his yellow cars and his blue cars. So try and get some other little things that he can do. And like I said, just use a couple bowls or whatever you have around the house. It really doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Okay. Yeah, because that's something that has come up to me, like wanting to do activities with them because there are 3 and it's hard to be something structured because then they start fighting over stuff or they don't really understand what I want them to do.
Yeah.
And so that's something that seems kind of daunting to me instead of just like, let's color or something basic, because that's even chaotic. So like, it's interesting for me to hear from your perspective, like if moms are feeling like I have, I want to do these activities with them, but it's just going to be a mess and they're not going to understand what we're doing. Like, what can you say about that?
Well, let it be a mess. I mean, and then teach them that they can clean up the mess. Like you can incorporate so many things into just this lifestyle. Like if it gets messy, it's okay. Like they're kids, and then use that as a example of how to teach them how to be independent and cleaning up their mess. So I would just say definitely just try over and over, but like don't give up because they'll get it. They'll figure it out. So the more that you do it, if you think about when you went to school, I mean, repetition, right? So definitely just have that attitude that like it will pick up, they will get it. It might be a little crazy, but just embrace it. Like life isn't perfect. Yes. They will catch on. So I think if you just kind of go into it knowing that it may not be perfect, you might not have that perfect Montessori life that you see all the time, so you can make it good and they'll learn as they go.
Yeah. Because that's one thing that I feel like even when we see other moms doing activities like on Instagram, and I do want to talk about reality versus expectations in a moment. Because I know you're big on that too. Is you feel like, and even when my kids were babies, and you would see pictures of the kids in like the little swing, and I mean, that lasted for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And you see, mom saying, I'm cooking dinner while my kid's in the swing. And I'm like, I can't do that. That doesn't work. They don't stay in their swing for more than 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's that when you start doing an activity with your kids and they lose interest after like 2 minutes. And you're like, wow, I just went through this entire thing. Thanks a lot.
Totally. Yeah. We had a box today come in from a company that has this Montessori approach to learning different cultures. And we opened it today and I was so excited. It was all about China. And I think Coleman lasted a whole 2 minutes before he was like, I just want to play with Transformers, but that's okay. He learned a tiny bit in that moment. And then we just revisited a little bit later. And, I had to get everything out of the box every time and stuff, but I feel like that's just motherhood, like embrace it, that it may not go as planned.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a huge learning moment because it's the whole reality versus expectations. We feel like, especially like when you take them to an activity and you're like, this is going to be so fun. And then they hate it. They throw tantrums. And it's just how it is with kids. You just never know, but don't let that keep you from doing stuff.
No, definitely don't.
I actually just talked about this not too long ago because we went on a family trip to the mountains to go skiing and we took them tubing and everything. And it's like, you see the pretty pictures and you feel like, oh my gosh, awesome vacation and family. But little do you know that the majority of the time is just them crying, not wanting to cooperate.
Yeah.
But then you have some fun moments that don't last very long. But it's just like, do we stay at home bored or do we risk the tantrums and things not working out for some fun moments and memories?
Yeah.
Just how life is, I guess.
Yeah, it totally is. Like that moment that's showing like on Instagram is 0.3 seconds of someone's life,
Yes. And I do want to talk about that, but still in the Montessori.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
Because I do want to talk about the business side of things, like the entrepreneurship and all of that. How did that go in terms of, people were interested in the bed because you made it yourself and then turning that into a business? Kind of walk us through the journey.
Let's see. Okay. It was kind of quick and scary because it picked up so quickly. So we actually had the business before and we made teepees, but it was really slow, kind of hobby like.
Okay.
And then the beds became like what really brought our business to life. So we did a name change, like rebranding kind of thing. And then I started trying to focus more on Montessori and not so much on like teepees. I didn't really have like a theme at that point, but this is where I really got my theme. And so we started out making everything ourselves. Like my husband just did it in his spare time. He had a full-time job. This was kind of my side hustle that I did. And very slowly transitioned into other people helping us make them and then hiring other people to make them. And so as the business grew in popularity, like that kind of stress was not as much on us as it was on just delegating out what to do. And I was really able to focus a lot more on interacting with customers. I feel like I had a pretty tight-knit base with them, which was important to me.
Right.
So yeah. It just kind of grew quickly, but we just transitioned as easily as we could. And yeah.
And then, so eventually are you continuing with the business? Cause you said you're just doing the blog now.
Yeah, no, we don't have the business anymore. So I've just started blogging about it to still be able to share my love for Montessori.
Cause it's a huge learning experience anyways, from just loving it to actually making it, making the stuff and being able to help people with all the knowledge. Cool.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the reality versus expectations. Back to that, because I know one of the things that you have been talking a lot about is this reality check intervention. Can you tell us more what that means and why it's important to you?
Yes. So I think along with many other moms and women out there, struggle with anxiety. Super bad, mostly social anxiety. And I think a lot of that is pressure that I am not that perfect person that like everyone else seems to be, you know.
Yes.
Not only influencers, but even other people. We just tend to only post our good moments.
Yes.
So people see that. I remember when we were just starting our business and life was so crazy. We weren't making anything off of it. My friend was like, man, you guys just have to be loaded. Like, you're doing so good. And I was just like, really? Because like we're drowning over here. It's so hard, you know, but we were only posting the exciting things. And I've started to pay a lot of attention to that because it was really starting to affect my ability to mother, my ability to be a good wife and friend. And I was drowning in that like fake like fear of judgment of people seeing me and like knowing that my life didn't look as perfect as I was portraying it. So I started to like kind of take a step back and realize like maybe there's a way to like bring beauty into our reality and find the beauty in it and not be so scared to share like the hard moments or the moments where you don't have makeup on and stuff like that. So through my journey with anxiety and just trying to overcome that, I've just started to really try and embrace reality and try to be an advocate for reality because we all live a harsh reality. It's not Instagram perfect all the time, no matter what people post.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to know that and understand that because it's really hard to, when all you see is perfect things, to realize that people are living a real life.
Right.
So
yeah, no, and that's such an important message too. And this is something that's been coming up a lot for me and my guests and everything. Just talking about how women feel this pressure. And I feel like everyone does, but I think mostly women and especially moms, because you're just drowning in the house, work, and kids. And then you see these things online and you feel like, oh my gosh, my life sucks. And all these other people. And it's interesting to see it from the perspective of somebody that has a big following on Instagram and that you still have troubles and that you still have struggles. And it's good for us to share these things so that people feel more normal And it takes that pressure off of us, and it takes that pressure off of other people. So, you're just doing good across the board.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So besides your blog, so in your blog, we can find this DIY stuff and tips for Montessori. What are some different ways that we can reach you and other resources that you have?
I'm usually on Instagram daily. So like if you have questions or want to chat, messenger on the DM kind of feature on Instagram. And my email is also on my Instagram. I think that's like the most basic way you could reach out to me. Yeah. I'm checking those constantly. So
Awesome. And then to finish off, I just wanted you to kind of give us a tip. I feel like you've already given lots of amazing pieces of advice in terms of starting to incorporate Montessori and not feel overwhelmed, and also being more real and realizing that people's lives are hard. It doesn't matter what they're showing on Instagram. They're not 100% happy at all times. And things are not going 100% right for them either.
Yeah.
And I guess in the business side of things, or maybe a mom that is wanting to start something like that and doesn't know where to start, or maybe some kind of encouragement.
Yeah. So I think I don't know, I'm the kind of person that if I like something, why not try and turn it into some sort of revenue and something that makes you feel like you're getting something out of it. Yeah. So if you're wanting to start something that, it has to do with something you love, like just go for it. Like there's so many free courses online that you can take to get started and educate yourself in the subject. Like if you don't know about Montessori, educate yourself in it so that you can come off as a more professional understanding of what you're doing in any situation, though, not just Montessori. Right. Research it and go for it. Like the only thing holding you back is you. Life is crazy, but you can make it work if you want to.
Totally.
So I definitely say just go for it. There's nothing to lose.
Right. Oh, yes. I love that. There's nothing to lose. And you got to be resourceful, right? You got to go after stuff. Yeah. It's not just going to fall on your lap.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. This was so fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me once more. And I hope you feel more encouraged to follow your dreams and to maybe start experimenting with Montessori if you haven't already. And let me remind you once again to enter our giveaway. I will announce the winners later this week. You still have time to get your Mom Boss tea and coffee cup with the Mom Does It All logo. Have a wonderful week.